I think my grief-stricken wife is having an affair with her therapist, so I'm thinking of destroying his career and divorcing her. When my wife's brother was unalived in an armed robbery gone wrong 2 years ago, everything changed. Her and her brother were super close, their parents were substance addicts, and my wife and her brother grew up relying on each other and helping each other through everything. I knew him and he was a great guy, and his passing hurt me too, but seeing how it affected my wife completely broke me. She went from a free and bouncy spirit, to quiet and sheltered. She cried every single day and would loom at the pictures of the two of them every day too. She was fired from her job because she refused to show up for work because she couldn't get out of bed. Depression consumed her. She refused to eat, refused to go outside, didn't want to see me or even talk to me most days, and of course our life in the bedroom died too. She carried on this way for a full year straight and our marriage was dying rapidly. I remember coming home after working a 12-hour shift with flowers for her. I spent an hour and a half making her favorite home-cooked meal and told her to come downstairs for dinner. She refused to come down and told me she'd rather not eat today. She didn't even accept the flowers, telling me to throw them away. I didn't throw them away however, but I noticed they were out of the house a few weeks later. The next time I visited her brother's grave myself to pay respects, I noticed them there. I cried alone seeing that. I suggested therapy to my wife shortly after, and surprisingly she seemed accepting of the idea. She said she wanted to go alone however, and I researched the therapists and helped her pick one she liked. She started attending therapy 10 months ago and she has started improving. She started opening up slowly and her eyes regained the spark that they once had. I was super proud of my wife and let her know how amazing I thought she was. But now I think the reason for her spark being back. You see, on days she has therapy she wakes up super excited. With way more joy than on a day where we have a date planned. It's like the prospect of therapy makes her happy. I have never questioned her about this of course, but I did take note of it. She stated once that her therapist gave her his personal phone number and not his work phone number because he cared so much about her he wanted her to be able to reach him outside of work hours. This seemed super unprofessional to me, but I let it go at the time. However, over time I started to suspect things, especially when she came home 3 months ago with her button-up shirt undone with 2 buttons, which was low enough to expose her entire bra. I asked her about it and she said it's weird how I noticed that. Then she said it was too hot in the car on the way home so she undid them. Plausible I suppose, but then a few weeks later she came home from therapy with a very subtle smell of wine on her breath. I asked her why her breath smelled like wine and she said she picked some up from the store on her way home and taste tested it before coming into the house. I asked her why she didn't bring it inside however, and she claimed she decided to throw it away because she didn't think I'd like it anyway. Alarm bells were seriously going off in my head now, especially because I had seen her therapist. He is exactly her type. My wife and I also don't have much intimacy anymore, which is weird because she always talks about her libido coming back, which is leading me to believe that she is getting it somewhere else. So last month I decided to do something I should not have done and I put a tracker into her car before she left for therapy. I noticed that the tracker showed her going to her therapy appointment, then driving to a different address before coming home. I kept my findings to myself however. Last week I did something which put the final nail in our marriage in my opinion. When she went to therapy, I tailgated a few minutes later her without her noticing, and I saw her and her therapist exit the building and get in her car. I ended up following them from afar and using the tracker which was still in her car to pinpoint the location, and I arrived at a restaurant. I sat there for an hour and a half waiting, and I finally saw them leave holding hands. I wasted no time taking pictures and capturing evidence of my wife cheating and of the therapist being extremely unprofessional. Now my question is, do I simply serve her with papers or do I expose him too and get his license revoked?